Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with season 6, episode 19 of our weekly P&Q&C&A&T videos. And as we've started to do, we're gonna take it from the top with a breakdown of what each letter means for those who are new. And I always feel like this should be to the tune of that song from The Sound of Music. You know,
when you're 16. Or these are a few of my favorite
no,
things.
the
Do Re Mi?
Do Re Mi, yeah. I didn't know what the title of it was, but yeah, that one. Something like that. Like P is for something, right? You know that, like...
No.
No, I know it wouldn't work. I just... I always skim it, and I have some sense that it should be set to music somehow.
I was thinking more like an alphabet. Alright, so maybe I'll jump right in. P is for podcast and Patreon and patrons. Because our patrons on Patreon have made it worth giving up ad revenue to give everybody else the option to listen to this just as an audio podcast without being tied to YouTube. And so there's links in the description about where you can listen to it, where the way you listen to other podcasts.
Mm-hmm. Q is for questions, which is how this started as a Q&A video. We added the C for comments because sometimes it's not a question. We're just using something somebody else said as a jumping off point. A is for answers, and T is sort of the corollary to comments, right?
Right.
Or sometimes when people actually ask a question, we just end up not answering their question. And sometimes when people don't ask a question, we end up not answering anybody's questions. They're just talking about whatever.
Yeah.
So that sort of covers the rambling aspect of things.
And speaking of rambling, so last week we mentioned we went to the Mountain Goats concert. And I wanted to mention, and I forgot to mention, that John Darnielle came out before the concert. So we got there just in time. We were there maybe... half hour before the venue opened. Not even, like maybe 20 minutes.
Not even a half hour. We were there we started moving like 5 minutes after we showed up.
So he came out to the lineup and shook everybody's hand and had something to say to each person that wasn't, just the same thing. You know how sometimes when you've got like a phrase, you can just say, hey, thanks for coming, thanks for coming, thanks for coming, thanks for coming. He wasn't doing that. He was saying something different that we could hear to everybody.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Quite nice of him too. It helps that it was a line that was actually small enough, right? That he could do that, right? Because there's definitely artists that literally could not physically do that.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe this is a time to mention, because you listen to podcasts called I Only Listen to Mountain Goats.
Yeah, I Only Listen to the Mountain Goats is the podcast with Joseph Fink and John Darnielle.
Welcome to Nightvale.
Yeah. And they just go through albums. And they had, for the first season, they had artists do covers of all the different songs. And for this season, they've been playing the demos because the first few episodes came out before the album was actually released. And they were playing songs, and it's a quite interesting podcast. And John Darnielle is a really interesting guy. He's got a lot of fun like stories. He's got a cool way of talking about things, an interesting outlook on the world.
Right.
And I quite like the podcast.
So that's something you would recommend?
That is something I would recommend, although you'd have to listen and like the band first, I think. I don't think it works if your starting place is the podcast. But maybe.
Oh, so if somebody hadn't heard the Mountain Goats before, where would you recommend they start?
I would recommend they start with maybe Damn These Vampires is good, Lion's Teeth is really good, You Were Cool is really good. I think Genesis 2521 is quite good. And just maybe their more popular stuff. If you look them up on YouTube or Spotify or whatever, a lot of their more popular songs are actually some of my favorites.
So how would you describe the music? Like, what would you call it?
They're like alt folk. Okay. Or like maybe they've got like a little bit of rock. They've also got a decent chunk of their stuff that's like more sort of acoustic and unplugged. They're like indie. I don't know exactly how I would describe their music, but
I think that's a good starting point, because what we want to do is we're going to recommend somebody try it, that they know what they're getting, because one of the worst things that happens when you approach a media, even if it's good, if your expectations are the wrong ones, then it ends up spoiling the experience for you.
Yeah, and there's a heavy emphasis on lyrics, because John Darnielle is a singer-songwriter, and he is self-described as sort of just okay at singing. or not. Maybe that wasn't his exact wording, but not the best singer. But I quite enjoy the lyrics of the band. So if that was one thing that I have to point to that I really like, there's a lot of neat turns of phrases in the songs, and I quite enjoy the music itself. Right, I'm not saying that you should look for listen to it because it's basically like poetry with mediocre music. It's a good experience all around. But that's sort of, I think, my favorite part if I had to pick one aspect of it. Yeah, so there we go. You want to get into the first question?
Sure.
The first question comes from, or this is more of a comment, comes from Makobi Okwah, and they say, y'all should put timestamps in the description of the topics in the title. And then Victor RDZ says, agree.
All right, so this has come up before. It feels like it's come up a lot and that we've addressed it recently, but it maybe not because we've been doing it for so long. And my response to that is, well, you could do that yourself. And I think it goes hand in hand with the idea that, that we're even still making these glorified Q&A, but technically P and C and Q, or P&Q&C&A&T videos. The fact that we're making them is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Like, it's just... The point of this channel is that we started doing something that we wanted to have, a demonstration, explanation of how to reset the challenge. So if it's funny that they're asking us for something they could very well do themselves, if they actually wanted it to help other people out. So maybe let's talk turkey. We're averaging maybe less than $1 in ad revenue for each one of these PCAT videos.
Yeah.
And each audio track, like the fact that the video itself is about 50-something minutes long, means that we're talking for about 50-something minutes to make this video, not including all the stuff it takes to put our crappy thumbnail on it. And
and if you extrapolate that and try to take into account what minimum wage is for almost $1, split between two people.
Yeah.
We're not...
The thing is, it's one thing that we're just sitting around talking, right? But doing timestamps seems too much like work. And then when we're thinking about it like work, then is that a worthwhile wage?
No.
Right? If it's fun, sure. If it's work, $1 is definitely not enough. The fact that we have patrons is really that little extra nudge that encourages me to keep making these videos. How do you feel about that?
No, I agree. It's like the fact that there are people who are very obviously showing their support and that they like it is really the thing.
Yeah.
Right? And patrons are one of the sort of easiest ways that we can see that from people. It's sort of one of the most visible and consistent ways, other than regular commenting. Those are sort of the two ways that you can see specific people enjoying our stuff.
And sometimes they do both. Like, they really participate because along this topic, iProfit used to do timestamps.
Yeah.
And support us on Patreon.
Yeah.
And participate in the comments, which was kind of spectacular.
Yeah. The whole package.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the problem is that even if there are people who are making use of the timestamps, the proportion is probably still pretty low too. And,
there's so few views.
Yeah. So even if every single one of our audience members, that sounds very pretentious. If every single one of our viewers was using the timestamps, it would still be a pretty small number of people at the end of the day.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder too, does scale matter? Does our accessibility matter? So I'm sure that content creators who can make a living off whatever they make still get people demanding things from them. Good case in point, just because Game of Thrones is winding down its last season, I'm thinking of George R.R. Martin. I was cleaning up some stuff, and I pulled out that photo that I have with him from 2000, when we were both looking a lot younger and not so worse for the wear. And maybe the percentage, I guess, of people is... when they're that big, it's smaller because people realistically don't expect that much. But we're relatively accessible. We do these Q&As. We're actually responsive. So does it make us more of a target, do you think?
I don't know. Because maybe not. I think there's a lot of people that still do have a sense of sort of like joint ownership over content that they enjoy with the creator, even with bigger fan groups. And I think it depends on sort of the exact nature of the people who are consuming your content.
So, all right, so when you talk about the nature, then is there some sort of implied contract? This is what I was thinking. So I'm guessing that the people who want timestamps are wanting to skip over certain bits, right? It's not like they are watching and then think, oh, I want to come back to it and come back to that one spot, right? They're more likely listening to it less than they are listening to it more.
Yeah.
And the things that they're going to skip over are the non-injustice things.
I mean, maybe. Who can tell what they want to skip over? Maybe they just hear a question and don't care and want to just skip that question.
Yeah. Yeah, it might be. But, I mean, so aside from our patrons, nobody's really paying us. The ad revenue from each individual viewer is insignificant. And in aggregate, like we said, like, right? So $1 doesn't... It isn't paying for our time. So... is the cost of getting our hard-earned injustice, wisdom, knowledge, is the cost having to listen to us ramble on a bit? Or is it, like, I just, that whole thing, like, I'm just trying to figure out where that comes from and why it's bugging me so much.
Yeah, I don't know, because to me, the requests like that, like, I understand why people would want that. I just... at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense for us to do it.
I mean, let's face it, too. If it were just about injustice, there wouldn't be enough for weekly video.
Yeah.
And it definitely wouldn't be enough to make me want to continue, because there's a pretty good repository of information. I mean, we lost all of the official forums when they migrated it, when Warner Brothers migrated, but there's still Reddit, and I guess the GameFAQs forum has pretty much died down, like it's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
All right, do you remember on our first channel when we only did unboxings and we were getting a decent number of views, and instead of ads, we tried to introduce people to stuff that we liked as a way of leveraging the attention, like taking the attention and making something out of it.
Yeah, because I think initially, too, you were a lot more scared of advertisement than I was. Online ads. Yeah, I think you had a different sense of what people would and wouldn't put up with.
I felt bad because it almost felt like what we were doing was already, like the fact that they were watching the video was enough, and it was that sort of implied contract, and I felt like I was violating it a little bit by thinking about putting ads into it.
Yeah.
So, definitely. I mean, I don't entirely buy the idea that content is better the closer it gets you to death. Like, what was that video that
Hey Ash, what you playing? It was the Gone Home video where they have their father... literally their father, but the character of their father, like within the web series.
Played by their father.
Yeah. Say, you know, a piece of content is better the closer it gets you to death, talking about short, like, indie games versus, like long AAA, like, tentpole releases.
Right.
And,
or movies.
Yeah. And then Anthony Burch was like, that's crazy. That's like saying that, like, Paul Blart Mall Cop is better than, I forget, whatever shorter movie. And the dad was like, no, that's like saying if you watch Paul Blart Mall Cop this many times, it's better than Casablanca and then Citizen Kane and whatever all put together. But then there was also sort of the second joke. There was that joke, which was funny inherently, and then the turn, which were he just, like, I think grunts, like, under his breath, like, I love that effing movie or something like that. So he actually, it's separate from saying that It Brings You Closer to Grave is better. It's also that Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 is a favorite movie of his.
Right. So I don't totally agree with the idea, but there's that little nugget of truth there, that if it takes up your time and you can pass it, kind of, you know, it distracts you from whatever it is that you want that escape from, right?
Yeah.
That there's value to it, and we're talking about, when you include the other stuff, gameplay videos every once in a while, the weekly recap, we're putting out more than an hour of content every week.
Yeah, and I think, too, it also depends. Like, for a lot of people, they probably listen to podcasts and stuff with something else going on in the background. Right. I know that's how I listen to most podcasts, even ones that I absolutely love and that are consistently pretty engaging, so people are almost certainly doing that with this podcast. Yeah, and depending on your demographic, you know, volume of content, I think, is sometimes significant for stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, listen, low production values, granted, right? But still, I mean, there's got to be some value to it, and if it's not even worth doing timestamps, if it's something that you actually want to listen to, then I really don't know what to tell them.
Yeah.
That was just the point I wanted to make, I guess.
So, there we go. Our next question comes from VSL, and they say, do you guys buy recharges, or do you know a glitch?
All right, so this is one of those times where you see a question and you can answer it literally, or you can maybe try to get to the meat of what they're getting at, right?
Yeah.
It's because to me, it's a roundabout way of saying, please let me know if there's a glitch to play for free.
Yeah, or at least hoping, right?
Right.
Saying, hey, is there a way for me to get what you've got? And does that way not include money, ideally?
I mean, the answer to that part of the question is that you can get the free recharges that normally require watching video, because you can just bypass watching the video. There's a link in the description, and maybe we'll link it if I can remember where in this video is Battle 3, where in this video we're talking about it. But and that's on either Android or iOS. But on Android, you can also use time shifting to get more energy, but it's obviously less useful when you're in the middle of multiplayer ladder. However, this question gives me a chance to talk about the idea that thanks for putting the time down.
Oh yeah, no
that
problem.
We should support the devs. I mean, and that's the way we support the devs, is by buying recharges. I mean, this is another thing where we've talked about it a lot before, and again, it always seems like recently, because we've been doing this for a few years and we've got 800 videos.
But I don't think it has been recently for this.
Yeah, so probably worth revisiting. So the problem is that in this game, at least, it's a fun game, but the devs have priced stuff way beyond what most players would consider reasonable. There's clearly whales that are still spending money, but when you look at the price in terms of the internal consistency, right? So stuff that you could buy that you could also farm, and you look at the value, the cost of that versus how much it would take to farm it, or even compared to console games, which people are used to paying, stuff was way overpriced.
Yeah.
So of all the things that are available for free, real money, the opportunities that you can actually use to support the devs to say, hey, we like this game, and just throw some money their way, I think buying recharges is the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Because this thing is actually giving you a chance to play more. Right? It's not like a new skin. It's not like, like in Pokemon, you used to be able to buy furniture and little charms and stuff. This is a chance to... It's like putting quarter in the machine at the arcade.
And I think the lesson that we've also learned from maybe the introduction of metal characters with exorbitant costs to upgrade them, and from their removal of traditional packs that were able for credits and turn them into real money packs. It seems like if they're not making enough money, or if they think they could be making more money by trying to squeeze more out of you, they're actually willing to negatively impact the play experience to potentially make more money. So it's good to support their more positive monetization style if possible.
Yeah, and that is the best part. Seriously, like I still remember going to the arcade and dropping some quarters. I still remember playing Street Fighter 2, where the etiquette was, if you won the first fight, you would intentionally let the other person win the second fight, so that there would be a third, so you would both get as much play out of it as possible.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I mean, if there wasn't Injustice, this channel probably wouldn't exist either, and at least not in the way that we know it, right? Because it's not like, I mean, do you have aspirations to be a media content creator?
No.
Yeah. So we just like playing this game.
Yeah.
And so for us, even though, I mean, I totally recognize and we say this every week, right? Those cash packs for the early access or the different characters, totally not worth it. But recharges are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you like playing this game, I think that's a good way to support the devs.
Yeah. So there we go. I think that's everything for that question.
Mm-hmm.
So our next question comes from Carver Kazami, and they say, quick question, the best way to get characters is the gold booster pack, right? Because I can't find all the other gold characters.
So that's an interesting question, because so much stuff has changed, like you mentioned about the packs. So there used to be, for people who are really new, there used to be a daily discount gold pack.
Yeah.
So instead of 100,000 credits, it would be 75,000 credits.
Yeah, for once every day.
And it would be a great way to build up your roster.
Mm-hmm, because it was only 75% the cost. So you could get, for every 4 you bought, you would get a full price gold pack for free, or for every 3 you got, right? At that price, the fourth one was free, basically.
Right. And so there's not a lot of options anymore. So for a while there were a bunch of team packs, like targeted team packs that would come in that would be power credits, and some that would be better than others. And now they are coming back, but as cash packs.
Yeah.
And they used to have a most wanted pack, and they used to have targeted challenge packs.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have just the gold pack and the challenge pack if you want gold characters.
It's become more and more hostile for new players.
Yeah.
In recent times. And it's interesting because I don't even know what the motivation of removing the discount gold pack was, because it was there for so long. It was there for years, right? It seems like...
And that's a good motivation to get somebody to come back every day.
Yeah, and I don't know why you would rejigger that, because it didn't seem like it was unfair. It
didn't feel broken.
Yeah, there was no real issue with it. It was strictly a better deal than the normal gold pack, but like... 75,000 credits still takes a while to grind up to, right?
Yes.
At that point, the difference for them as the sort of people selling us injustice doesn't seem that big, but the difference over time for players seems pretty massive.
Right. So now that all those other packs have gone, I think I've got to reevaluate. And as the power creep happened, I think challenge pack is actually still pretty good.
Yeah.
And at 150,000 compared to 75 would win out, but at 100 to 150, I think I'm leaning a little bit more towards the challenge pack as an option. The problem is there's still so many possibilities that it's hard to specifically promote one character.
Yeah. Definitely for really early in the game, I still think it's worth the gold pack over the challenge pack, because that's the type of place where volume matters more. So it's better to have 3 gold characters than it is to have 2. Even if the 2 you have are higher stats.
Right.
Almost always.
Yeah, because you want more bodies. And getting to bonus battle 6, where I believe the grinding is still the most efficient for credits, is you can get there faster by spending your money on gold packs, so you have more warm bodies. And once you get there, you'll have a better chance of farming that spot if you want.
Yeah. So there we go. I think that's everything for that question too.
Yeah.
So our next question comes from Daniel Miao. Let us know, for any of the people so far, let us know if we've mispronounced your name and how you'd like us to pronounce it. But this question, we're going to go, I think, a little more in depth, and I think it's interesting to point out, we have a much higher proportion of actual injustice-related questions this week.
Yeah, that wasn't intentional. It's just what comes up.
Yeah, so this is more of an actual game-heavy week. We've cut down on our religious discussion a little bit.
Well, I think we've farmed that soil, or there's an expression for that, right?
Oh, yeah. Drain that well.
Drain that well.
I don't know.
Or we've gotten as much productive stuff out of it as we can without actually getting your real life friend to come in and guest with us, because we're not exactly world religion experts. I have my limited experience with Catholicism.
Yeah.
And you've got your
very limited experience with just sort of religion as like idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so anyways, this question, which is about injustice, says, "Hey BDCKR, in case you noticed this comment, I was wondering about the feasibility of the Suicide Squad team with Suicide Squad Harley Quinn, Suicide Squad Deadshot, and Suicide Squad Joker that isn't unhinged. More details below." And then there are more details below. What if you made a team with Tantu Totem, Deathcart, Twin Pistol Harley Quinn, and Heart of Darkness, Iba Stick, and Fourth World Mace Joker? Deadshot can be a tank / basic attack damage dealer. On Harley Quinn, you get the instant power for Special 2, and then when you tap Joker's face, it's an instant unblockable 150,000 damage if done with right conditions. Joker gets huge damage buffs by his passive as well as his damage on the portrait, scaling off Special 2 damage. Since Joker does not ever tag in, there is no risk of him dying and unable to do damage. Because Harley constantly heals, no risk of team dying either, with the added bonus of unblockable in case Joker ever does tag in. What are your thoughts on a team like this? Would it be too similar to Ares with the drawbacks? Could you comment on this setup?
Okay, so lots of people mention stuff about teams, and sometimes the idea intrigues me. I'm going to try them out, but it doesn't always end up in a video.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm leaning towards making a video out of this, but there's some interesting things, like some really interesting things that I've noticed when I'm playing around with it. So maybe I should explain first for people who don't have Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. So her passive, so all the Harley Quinns have on the Special 2, like a rotating thing. I believe all of them do. I'm not 100% sure about I haven't played the bronzes in a while, but I know all the gold ones have this rotating thing where you have options for damage boost, heal the team, and what was the last one? An unblockable bomb.
Yeah.
And in the case of Suicide Squad Harley Quinn, her passive is that when she does her Special 2, if Suicide Squad Deadshot is on the team, the bomb ends up doing splash damage, so they call it C4 instead, but it does 20% splash damage on the other guys. And also on the card that has Joker on it, where you normally get a damage boost, if you've got one of the Suicide Squad Jokers on your team, Suicide Squad Joker will come in, do damage that's supposed to be somewhere around his damage stat, and then tag back out. And what's interesting, so the 150,000, in my mind, what I'm trying to do is, because when you face guys in multiplayer and you've got them at high enough stats, you're going to face guys with like 150, 160,000 health.
Yeah.
So that could be the difference, like tweaking the amount of the special 2 damage with Joker could be the difference between
getting your power back and one
because you're knocking them out, right? Oh, I should also mention that Suicide Squad Harley Quinn also has an extra ability that rotates, which is giving power to her teammates.
Yeah.
And why that's really powerful is that with Tantu Totem,
it's free.
Yeah, if you can hit it properly. The difficulty I have with that Harley Quinn is because there's so many more options that cycle through them too fast, and I'm not as good at hitting the one that I want every time.
Yeah.
So you could actually use it to just charge everybody up before you give her Tantu Totem, Master's Death card, or if you want to do something else, you could actually use Razzle Go Scimitar, so you're not affected by people on the other team that dampen power gen.
Yeah.
So you do that, and you can actually charge everybody up. But what I'm really interested in is, so where does the extra boosted damage to Special 2 come from?
Yeah.
So the one thing I figured out, if it crits on an Elite 7, level 50 of the full Suicide Squad team, it will do 156,000 plus damage.
That's a lot, yeah.
Right, just from the Joker tagging in. What's funny is, if you knock out the opponent, Harley Quinn gets the credit for it in the stats at the end. But Joker gets the credit for doing the damage. Like if
Interesting.
If you look at the stats, usually like when you get damage over time, it's whoever's sitting there, not the person who started it, that gets credit for it, right?
Yeah.
But when Joker comes in, Joker gets the credit for the damage, Harley Quinn gets credit for the kill.
Oh, so you can have Harley Quinn theoretically deal no damage, but get all the KOs.
Yes, only if you use her with Razzle Go Scimitar, because if you use Master's Death card, when she tags in, she's doing 10% damage.
That's
so she's
true.
doing some damage first before she does all her business.
Yeah.
And I like Master's Death card better than Razzle Go Scimitar, because I screw up often enough that I need to tag her out and tag her back in. But if I tag her back in with less than 2 bars, then I'm going to be messing around a little bit longer.
Well, at that point, that would just be for the actual final screen display. It wouldn't actually be for ease of use.
Right, exactly. But I think Razzle Ghouls, you could, as long as you're really careful about what you did. As long as you boosted power, like gave yourself power gen twice in a row before, or just once before spending it.
There's also damage over time, right? With Scimitar, isn't there?
No, that is the power drain on the combo ender.
Yeah.
Basic damage boost.
No, I was thinking of the wrong
power.
gear. Yeah, no, so you could get a 0 damage 3 KO game.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Yep.
You could also get a 0 damage 3 KO game in which Harley Quinn was the only character in. Right?
No, because she needed to tag her in to get the bars.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
And you'd want, or maybe you could Batgirl.
Yeah.
Plus Razzle Ghul Scimitar.
Yeah.
And on Harley Quinn and Joker, so Joker and Harley Quinn tag back in and out.
Yeah.
But what helps is actually having Deadshot's unblockable specials.
That's true.
So it wouldn't be impossible. It would just be a little bit hard. But I think it would be kind of fun to try as like a proof of concept.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm trying to do is max out the special 2 damage from Joker, and I've been experimenting a little bit with it, and I'm still not done yet. But all right, so here's what's interesting. The loadout that Daniel mentioned. So the dual pistols make absolutely no difference in terms of the amount of damage.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd experiment and see, well, maybe it's a Special 2 booster. And the Special 2 boost doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
But the crit chance seems to, because I think it's based, but I'm not 100% sure, it's based on the crit chance of Harley Quinn on her Special 2.
Yeah.
Because when I put in something that had an extra 30% chance of a crit of crit on special 2, then I was getting the 160 or 150 something thousand more often, but still not 100.
Yeah.
So then I tried something else. I tried boosting basic damage on the Joker because I thought maybe it's him coming in.
Yeah.
Made absolutely no difference. So it was basic damage boosting about 70% each, so 210%. No difference.
Mm-hmm.
Boosting the basic damage crit chance on Joker also made no difference.
Yeah.
Because I would still be getting a similar kind of, a mix of 60 something thousand and 156,000.
Yes.
Increasing crit chance on Harley Quinn specials. So she was max augmented 50%. Gears, we're giving her 30 and 30.
Yeah.
Not 100%.
But it did help.
But it seemed to help. But maxing, the only thing that I found that made a difference was increasing crit damage on the Joker.
Yeah.
So if I take the Joker and I give him...
Does increasing special 2 matter for the Joker? Like, if you add it to him?
See, this is what I'm working through. Like, it's taking me a few fights because it's not 100% each time.
Yeah.
I've been playing around with it, and I'm getting some funky numbers. I've been testing on Bonus Battle 6, and I've been getting some funky numbers. So I really need to check it out a bit more. But Cloak of Destiny, which gives a 50% boost to crit damage, and LexCorp Helmet, which also gives a 50% boost to damage. I can boost that Joker damage to when he on Harley Quinn Special 2, 219,000.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So that's definitely an interesting sort of mental math that you do, where you actually get to basically have somebody who is a stand-in for Harley Quinn's second special.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, one other thing that's interesting. I think there might be some error in the programming because it will crit most of the time.
Yes.
With only 2 gears of LexCorp Helmet and Cloak of Destiny, neither of which boosts crit chance. However, if I add something that boosts crit chance on Special 1 on the Joker or boosts crit chance on Special 2, like Demon Blade for 2 or League of Assassin's Knives for 1,
yes,
all of a sudden I'm having trouble. I'm getting less than half the time more than 62,000. Most of the time it's 60,000, so it's not critting at all.
Interesting.
And I wonder if by doing something on the Joker, it switches the crit chance from Harley Quinn to the Joker.
Maybe. Interesting. I don't know.
So that's why it's been so hard to actually do it, because it's a lot of fights. It's a lot of recharges. I mean, it's definitely worthwhile, and I think this could be a viable team. But you're right, Daniel, that it's not as good as Ares because Ares doesn't take a lot of skill.
Yeah.
You just need to be able to tap fast and make the right decision about who to tag in depending on whether Astro Harness is up or not. But here, the place where I'm failing and having trouble and screwing up is with Harley Quinn, where I picked the wrong Special 2. Because if I get the worst is when I get the C4 or the bomb.
Yeah.
And then it hits them because its stated damage is 40-something thousand. It's almost never enough to knock them out. And then my power's gone, and then I gotta tag somebody back in.
Okay.
So that's why it's definitely it's an interesting thing. If I can figure the knack of it, I think it would be worth making a video out of it.
Okay. Interesting. Oh, so stay tuned, I guess, maybe. That's a potential teaser.
Yeah.
And potentially not. And so that wraps up our questions. You had something else that you wanted to talk about, not Injustice related.
Okay, so this is our talking stuff, right? And just talking about what's been happening last week. So the first thing is the Raptors won the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs, and they are now in the Eastern Conference Finals. And we're filming this Tuesday, and it's posting it Tuesday. So I believe the first game of the Eastern Conference Finals is is at Milwaukee tomorrow night.
Yeah.
But that last game of the last 4 seconds of Game 7 was spectacular. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay, so you don't follow basketball much.
I don't.
Okay.
I know that EST does.
Oh, okay. Right.
They've been commenting about the games and keeping us, or at least keeping me in the loop in a way
Right.
that I wouldn't be otherwise, because they are aware that you like basketball.
So I was actually watching this while I was working out, and that last shot. So there was an inbounds pass with 4.2 seconds left. Game was tied. Everybody
Yes.
knew it was going to Kawhi. And somehow the Philadelphia 76ers were unable to keep it out of his hands. He got it. He dribbled to a fadeaway jumper into the corner with 7-foot Joel Embiid literally in his face.
Yeah.
And Ben Simmons potentially double teaming him, but having to back off because he was, and I'm speculating as to his motivation now, because he had 5 fouls, and if he got a 6, he would foul out. And when it was tied, if Kawhi doesn't make the shot, there's the prospect of overtime and having fouled out and not being able to play.
Yeah.
So that's probably why he had to back off a little bit, because he was like a few feet away when Kawhi made a shot. Kawhi made a really high arcing shot because, he's guarded by this 7-foot guy.
Yeah.
It hit the rim and then bounced up. And then it bounced again on the rim.
Oh my god.
And then again on the rim.
Yeah.
And then again on the rim. And remember, too, he took the shot with maybe like 0.2 seconds left. So it left his hand in time before the buzzer.
Yeah.
But this is a buzzer beater.
The game's over, yeah.
The game's over if you're touching the ball with the time's out. When you've shot the ball, then it's over once the ball lands.
Yeah.
So it's 0.2 seconds. It's in the air. Buzzer sounds. So this is it for the game in regulation.
Yeah.
Bounce once. So it hits and then comes up and bounces once. And then bounces twice.
Mm.
And then 3 times. And then 4 times.
Oh my god.
And then it sinks in.
Oh, that must have been really tense.
Yeah. What's ridiculous about it is, all right, so it's not a final, so it doesn't have the same weight as other games, right? Like, like for Toronto at least, Joe Carter, walk-off home run to win the World Series, but it was Game 6. This Game 7 is big in so many other ways because, all right, so the beginning of the years, there was one of the best all-time Raptors, and arguably, DeMar DeRozan, Raptor for life, one of the few pro athletes who's been very publicly loyal to Toronto.
Mm.
But he's an all-star, but maybe not a Hall of Famer. And before the season, they traded him away for Kawhi Leonard.
Oh.
So they traded him plus Jakob Poeltl, who was a young big man who had a lot of potential. He was basically like Jonas Valanciunas, but a little bit faster and younger with maybe potentially more upside. So to make make it worth the trade, because Kawhi was a better player, but Kawhi only had 1 year left. So DeMar DeRozan had 2 more years of contract and 1 year of player option, so potentially 3 years of control, because at that point he was willing to stay. Trading for a younger player, Kawhi Leonard, who was, I think, 2 or 3 years younger, but only had 1 year left on his contract, with Toronto's reputation being what it was. There's a good chance he was not going to re-sign. That was the expectation. And he'd also only played 9 games last season because of an injury.
Mm.
So with the potential of trading a really good player for a damaged, better player who may never get back to where he was, and adding a couple players to make it balance out, it turns out that Kawhi Leonard had was able to get back to where he was.
Yeah.
That the extra player they threw in was really useful, was somebody who could play real, not only like in the rotation minutes, but like starter minutes.
Yeah.
And this was it. It was all in because later on in the season they traded Jonas Valanciunas for basically Jonas Valanciunas and DeLon Wright for Marc Gasol, who was another older player, also 1 year left.
Yeah.
So after the season, everything is done. So if the Raptors had lost this game, huge overhaul. Like this team, we're probably never going to see it like team, or a team that looks like this again. And Kyle Lowry, who's been around forever, but he's also getting older.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, older is way different in pro sports than it is in
real life.
Yeah. So this was like one of those bets all in. Like if this failed, this team is getting blown up. If they'd lost Game 7, Philadelphia, if they'd lost Game 7, well, now that they've lost Game 7, they were facing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So they have 2 stars.
So now that they've won, this is just a chance for this team to take it all the way. And they're
Right.
still going to, at the end of this, sort of be dissembled.
Sure. But at least they have a chance to win. But
Yeah.
Philadelphia, it's ending now. Because they have 2 big stars, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. But they also traded in the middle of the season for Jimmy Butler, who's another star. All-star for sure. And Tobias Harris, who came from, I think, the Clippers. And at some point, he was considered all-star quality, too. I mean, Philadelphia has probably the best starting 5. They have 4 guys who scored at least 18 points average in a game, plus Ben Simmons, who's averaging like 15 or 16 points, so also a star. And so they went all in. So you're seeing these 2 teams who have been so closely matched. I mean, the scores weren't always closely matched, but they were game 7.
Yeah.
4 seconds left, tied 90 all. And both teams are facing the prospect of having the teams blow up at the end of this year. Like the free agents the guys they traded for that are going to be gone at the end of the season were significant. Yeah. So Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris for 76ers, Marc Gasol, Kawhi Leonard, and Danny Green for the Raptors. All this at stake. 4.2 seconds left. Tie game. So to me, that's like as good or even better than the finals because of the stories coming into it.
Mm-hmm. Like, just for whoever wins and whoever loses, there's high stakes.
Yeah. And it would be not only the end of the season, whoever lost, but it would be the end of
that team.
Yeah, and there'd be probably a big rebuilding process because even if you've got stars, which Philadelphia would and Toronto won't, maybe won't after this year. You can't just make it on 1 or 2 stars. You know, LeBron James being a perfect example where he had such a bad season in LA. But there's just so much at stake. It made this moment so much more powerful. And then it bounces like 4 times. It's a buzzer beater, and it bounces a bunch of times. It wasn't even like in. I don't think it would have been better. Yeah. It would have been worse if it had just gone right in.
Yeah, less dramatic. You mean?
Yes, exactly. So it was just. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a moment quite like that in sports ever.
That's big praise.
Yeah. I don't think it's like John Cleese in Cheers. Okay, don't ever have to watch again. It's been done perfectly. This is exactly what when you want like that perfect moment.
Yeah.
That glory.
You're like, pack it up, we did it.
Yep, pack it up, we did it. John Cleese was saying that he was playing marriage counselor in Cheers and saying, "Yep, Sam. Okay, nobody else needs to get married again. Sam and Diane have done it perfectly." Yeah. So that was the most interesting. Oh, but there have been other things. Do you ever watch a show called My 600-Pound Life?
No, I've never. That's very like a TLC sort of like, profiting off of other people's sort of suffering, sort of adjacent show to me.
Yes.
And I haven't watched a lot of that sort of reality show sort of stuff. There's too much good content. And not to say that this isn't good, necessarily, but there's too much, like, really good stuff that I think I haven't spent a lot of my time with that kind of thing.
My issue is when I'm working out, because it's not like I'm doing... Sometimes I'm doing aerobic, I do all that at work, so when I'm watching something on TV at home, I'm doing weights.
Yeah.
So it's always interrupted by moments where I'm not paying attention. So it can't be something where... like there's a story that I need to follow and watch what's on the screen all the time. Yeah. So I'm gonna put on something like that where if I look away for a couple minutes,
who cares?
Every few minutes, it's not a big deal.
But something that's engaging enough while it's there, but also that you don't care if you can't listen.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be about these people who are heavy and want to have bariatric surgery.
Yeah.
Which is another way of saying weight loss surgery to help them lose weight. And I suspect that part of the reason why they participate is because, bariatric surgery is really expensive. And the show producers are probably willing to foot some, if not all of the bill, to get them for the surgery, even if they don't foot the bill for all the stuff that they have to do to prepare, like to move into Houston or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's about those people trying to lose weight, sort of. But after you watch a few episodes, it's also about the one surgeon, because it's always his program.
Okay.
And so, there's a standard formula. There's the establishing story. You get to know the person who's trying to lose weight.
Yeah, makes sense. That's sort of standard for this sort of show.
Then there's like the journey to see the Dr. What's his name? Now Zaradin for the first time. and then they get weighed, and they always show you the weight after the commercial break.
Oh,
they get
okay.
on the scale, and this is like a fixed formula. You know,
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
gonna
It's like the way that they do like cutaways in like shows like Survivor or whatever,
Right.
or just tons of reality shows, or the Storage Wars. Whenever they go, oh, what's in there? Oh my god!
yeah.
And then they cut back, and then
Right.
they're like, it's
So-
a cat or something. Like it's never as
it's
impressive.
like it's a dead rat. So other weight loss shows, I mean, I don't believe it when they seem surprised at the numbers, but in
Because
this
you think that as part of the application process, they would
they
have
would
to
have weighed
know.
themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But in this case, I do, because there are very few scales that will actually measure as high as they go.
Yeah, especially for people, they might be able to be on some sort of industrial scale, right?
Right.
But that seems unlikely that they would have access to it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Or be motivated enough to go out to one.
Right, exactly. So whatever number they get, right? So it's somewhere, it's somewhere around 600, sometimes way higher. Whatever number they get, the doctor tells them they're supposed to go on a 1,200 calorie diet and lose 40 or 50 pounds in 1 month.
Yeah.
They come back sometimes when they're supposed to, sometimes not.
What do you mean by that?
So, they come back a month later, but sometimes they just don't, because something happens. Like they have some sort of complication, right? And then then you find out if they made it enough weight loss to get the surgery.
Yeah.
And the weight they're being asked to lose before surgery, it's pretty significant.
Yeah, for sure. 50 pounds in a month is a lot of weight. If most people losing 50 pounds in a month would get them to their goal weight.
Right.
Or under.
So I think a fair question they ask, but never to him. They always ask, because there's a whole bunch of sections where they're just sort of talking to the camera, basically, like almost like a diary.
Yeah.
But not to the camera. It's more like an what's the thing where you talk over?
Voiceover?
Voiceover.
Yeah. It's not like the Survivor like interview where they just cut out the questions.
Right. So they ask, but it's always after they leave the office. They say, well, why do you need to lose the weight before the surgery, when they think they need the surgery to lose the weight?
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair question, and I always wonder why they never ask the doctor. So I've been trying to come up with my own answer. I think I have one.
Yeah.
You want to take a stab at it?
See, what I would think is that there's some sort of physiological change that they're trying to introduce. It's possible. But because the key is that I know that they're not all the same weight. So when you say that they're all supposed to lose between 40 and 50 pounds, they're not getting down to some goal weight where it becomes possible. I don't think. Right? If they can be drastically different weights, but what they're asked to lose is not drastically different.
Right.
So I think it's possible that something changes within the body, although I wouldn't be able to say what if somebody loses that sort of weight in that time period. There's some way that's prepping for the surgery physically.
Yeah. That's actually a good one, too. That's not what I came up with, but I mean, I wish they would ask him.
Yeah.
So what I came up with, all right, so bariatric surgery is basically, it's partly a mechanical solution, right? Because, there's other hormonal changes or whatever. But basically what they do is they staple it, or they put a band around it, so there's less room for food to fit in the stomach. So it's harder to overeat. But you can still overcome that kind of physical limitation if you're motivated, right? Because you can eat more frequently, you can eat more calorie-dense foods, have more liquid calories, so they just pass right through the stomach. So short-term weight loss, it's not easy, but it's way easier than long-term weight loss, right? There's so many people who yo-yo up and down, and the surgery is meant to help with long-term weight loss. So I guess the idea is I'm guessing that you want to show them they can deal with the discomfort of being hungry and uncomfortable. Because if someone can't even manage short-term weight loss, maybe that surgeon doesn't want to risk doing surgery on someone who's going to fail long-term, because the person who gets the surgery somehow just can't tolerate the discomfort that comes with even like the short-term loss, where you see an end in sight.
So this is like a trial period almost, where they're getting an indication on whether or not you'd be able to succeed at like the harder version by at least giving you like an easier test that they can before they do the surgery.
Right, because once you've done the surgery, I believe a lot of it is permanent.
Yeah.
And then they're at higher risk for sabotaging themselves by eating to overcome the stapling or the gastric band.
Okay.
So that's why. I mean, that's my guess, but I really wish they would ask him that.
Because you're not sure.
Yeah.
Have you tried looking it up?
That's a funny question, and I have not. I don't. You know what? Sometimes it's more fun to speculate. It just never occurred to me to look that up because I didn't think there'd be
a satisfactory answer.
Yeah, and
maybe we can try looking it up, and if there is, we'll come back next week with something. If there is anything for people who are following this plot thread.
Yeah, and that actually takes us to the end of the video.
Oh,
I think that might have been the last
good timing.
fight.
Yeah, I mean we're at 52 minutes of video,
fight.
so this probably is. Yeah,
and that was a 1 minute fight.
Nice. Yeah, I don't think
it was a little bit
There we go. Okay, perfect. So to finish up, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/BDCKR, or you can click on our face at the bottom right corner at the end of the video, not the subscribe button. And if you're the kind of person who consistently watches these videos to the end, if you've sat with us for the last 50 minutes, then you are probably exactly our demographic for Patreon support. So if you're here and you're not a Patreon supporter, maybe take a second and think, do I like these guys enough to toss them a couple bucks a month? And or maybe even before that, do I have a couple of bucks a month to toss towards my entertainment?
Yeah.
And then after, should I give it to these guys or should I save it for something better? Yeah. And if the answer is yes, I have the money, that's great. And yes, I want to support these guys, that's also great. You can go to patreon.com/BDCKR, and there are a bunch of fine people who have already asked themselves those questions and answered yes, and now we're going to thank them. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, a big thank you to Consul Peasant, who's supporting us at the highest last word tier. A new patron this week, John Auriemma, at the Your Message Here tier.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's always interesting to me that we're still having like movement. People dropping slowly makes sense to me, but new people picking up is interesting.
Yeah. Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, and Aaron Mall, who support us on the credited level, and Eddie G, Chris Wolf, and Laszlo Georgiadis, who are supporting us at the gratitude level.
So there we go. Thank you guys all so much, and thanks so much to you for watching or listening. We'll see you next time. Komoda.